Hey guys, Dave Mazzetta here. Today we're going to talk about building RAG pipelines with TextAI. If you haven't heard of TextAI before, TextAI is an all-in-one AI framework for semantic search, LLM orchestration, language model workflows. If you haven't heard of RAG before, it stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. It's designed to help reduce the risk of hallucinations by limiting the context of which an LLM can generate answers. It's typically done with a vector search query that hydrates a prompt in a relevant context. RAG is one of the more common use cases for both TextAI and generative AI in general these days. So this notebook's just going to show you how it's very straightforward to create a RAG process with TextAI. It's designed to be a minimalist framework, and we're going to show that via example right here. So in this notebook, the first thing you see, as all of the TextAI example notebooks, is installing TextAI and installing any dependencies or data that are needed to run the notebook. We'll start with the basics, just starting an LLM. In this case, we're going to use a 4 billion parameter model, one of the more popular Qwen instruct models. And then we'll go over to the next step if you have to get data. So you're trying to connect your data with the LLM, put it into a prompt, and generate information. RAG seems complex, but it's pretty straightforward when you talk about the straightforward standard RAG use case. TextAI has a Textractor pipeline for being able to pull information out of documents. Supports Word docs, PDFs, HTML, a lot of other formats. There's two different backends for it. The main ones are either Docklin, which is very popular, but it also supports Apache Tika, which has been around for a very long time, and in some cases can do even a better job than Docklin. So we'll look here with running the Textractor pipeline. We'll extract information from a Word document and then print it. And the default mode for the Textractor is to extract everything to Markdown, which really is beneficial for a lot of different use cases, especially with chunking, but also with just pulling information out of documents for LLMs. So you see this, it's a TextAI example document. It shows the information about it, a summary with bullets there, a couple of different sections included Markdown tables, and install, and a models guide. So this is the document we'll work from in this example. So the next thing is we're gonna build a RAG pipeline without even a RAG pipeline. We're just gonna have a function. It's gonna be an execute function that takes a question, it takes text, it plugs it into an LLM prompt, and that is basically all RAG is in many use cases. So tell me about TextAI in one sentence. It's going to build this system prompt and then a user prompt, and it's going to take the text and plug it in there. So the text is coming from this extracted document in this case. And you see, looking up here, the TextAI is an all-in-one embedded database. That's what it used to be called before we moved to calling it a AI framework. And the LLM correctly responds with that plus a little bit more information. What does TextAI recommend for transcription? Here, you look at this model here, transcription Whisper. TextAI recommends using Whisper for transcription. I don't know anything about TextAI. What would be the best thing to read? Go back to the extracted document, look across here, and it says, all right, to introduce in TextAI Notebook would probably be the best place to get started. So this notebook's been around a while. It's evolved, it's grown, but still you look back on it and it's amazing how a LLM can just take the right context and it really works well, and it limits the information that can be seen. So next step will be making a little bit more of a standard RAG process, which is connecting it to a data or a data search layer. In this case, we use vector search, and if you look at TextAI's page, you'll see a lot of cases with using vector search, but there's nothing about RAG that requires vector search. You can use keyword search or SQL search. I'll show that in another example in the future of just using some more API or search-based RAG. In this case, it's going to chunk or index the information. We're going to use once again, go through a Textractor. We'll chunk using paragraphs. Given that Textractor set, this paragraphs is set equal to true. We'll stream it into chunks and then look at the directory. It's going to index these 4 documents here. The next step is defining the RAG pipeline, which still in this case is just a series of functions. And we'll ask a question. What model does TextAI recommend for image caption? TextAI recommends Blip for image caption. And This document is one of the documents that's indexed. You'll see here, image caption in blip model. So going on to the next section, this TxtAI also has the ability to do citations. It's long had that. And it's a very straightforward, simple, but it can be effective method for doing that. We'll see here, just running the standard search, getting the text back to a standard embedded search. The idea behind the default citations mode in TxtAI is it will put all that data into the context, but also keep track of where the data came from. And then it will analyze the answer that's generated by the LLM and determine what was the best input for that to, quote unquote, cite where the information came from. So if we look at this example, what version of Python is supported, answer, and 3.10 and later versions. The citation is a generated ID, but that is one of the paragraphs. Python 3.10 is supported. Using a virtual environment is recommended. So that comes, if we scroll back up here, it comes from this section, Python 3.10 is supported. So this just kind of shows you a basic example of how to do RAG with TxtAI. We also have a RAG application, which I'll show you. This is a Streamlit application that calls a TxtAI index and connects it to an LLM. In this case, there's the TxtAI Wikipedia index, which is all the 6 million plus Wikipedia abstracts indexed. And then it takes, it supports vector search with that, and then it'll take the LLM query and connect each one of those for RAG. So if we just do a simplistic example, we'll do the basic one. Who created Linux? Enter it in. Linus Torvalds created Linux. We could also copy one of these queries here and run GraphRAG, which is using a graph path traversal that is taking that Linux to Mac to Windows path. It's looking across a graph database, which TxtAI Wikipedia in this case is a graph database. Each one of the nodes are indexed between each other, so you could do these traversals, and you'll see this graph that's generated. And when we don't put a query in here by default, it actually just looks across all these nodes and will generate a summary of what was built. So in this case, it's just looking across operating system, which makes sense when you look at, Mac OS, Windows, Linux. If we ask it about, tell me about TxtAI, it doesn't know anything about TxtAI. So if the next thing we want to do is add information, we can actually add a website or add a document. This will take a minute, but it's going to go out into the web. It's going to pull in TxtAI's GitHub page. It's going to chunk it. It's going to parse it. It's going to index it into the existing embeddings index, which is the Wikipedia index. You can actually modify it and augment it with additional information, and it comes back and it's been added. So now if I say me about TxtAI, it's going to actually generate an answer now, where it's just using the information from the TxtAI page. So this RAG application by itself is pretty powerful. You can index with your own information. You can use an existing index, such as the Wikipedia index, and augment it with additional knowledge, or a lot of different combinations. It supports any TxtAI index that is out there. There's a couple that are available on the Hugging Face Hub. You certainly can take a look at those. You can build your own. You can do what was done over here using this notebook and build a embeddings index using Textractor, and then connect it to that application if you wanted to do something like a quick POC or something that helps you just demonstrate your data usage with RAG. You could also just connect a lot of different APIs behind the scenes using LLM APIs such as OpenAI if you want to use it. You don't want to have a local LLM run, or if you want to use a Llama. A lot of different, everything that's available with TxtAI is available through these applications that I'm showing you. So if you look through, there's pretty common to say TxtAI, what's its most common use case? RAG is its most common. It's got to be one of the more simplistic RAG frameworks out there, but yet powerful. So go ahead and give it a try. Hopefully this gave you a good overview of RAG with TxtAI. Hopefully it was helpful, and have a great day.